Uh, there was this was on New Year's weekend, or not weekend, just day or whatever, but this story came out from Belgium, which I found really interesting, that criminal charges have been brought by the Belgium Federal Prosecutor's Office against the Church of Scientology. And the prosecutor's office has accused the church and two of its senior executives of the illegal practice of the art of healing, of fraud, extortion, forgery, and the use of false documents, breach of privacy, and being and they're also calling them a criminal organization, which I think is absolutely huge. And this case it stems from a 2008 investigation. This lady, she answers this ad in the want ads, and she goes to apply for this administrative job, and she finds out that to get the job, she has to sign a paper saying she'll be a member of the church for 2.5 to 5 years. I'm thinking, whoa, this is kind of a weird way of recruiting church members. And so on the heels of that story, I think that our show tonight could not be more timely. And I need to thank Tay for pulling together our forum of international women who are going to be talking about the Church of Scientology. They were all members of this. Tay had called in during our Narcanon program telling us of some really kind of bizarre things that had happened to her, and then she suggested the show, and of course I jumped on it, and so here we go. So with that, I'd like to introduce Tay. Thank you, Tay, for joining the God Discussion Show.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for having us all on your show.
Well, where do we begin? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience in Scientology and why you believe that this needs to be shared with the world?
Okay, thank you. It's a wonderful subject, certainly, and the world needs to know what's going on. I want to welcome everybody to the X-Women Show. My name is Colleen, and I am not a Scientologist, not anymore. It's going to be a really great show, I'm sure. I was 17. I was 17 years young, open-minded, altruistic, and searching for something to ease the pain of my beloved best friend and brother who had just died and leaving me adrift. My family was destroyed by Scientology. Because I seemed to be so happy after I got in, everyone in my family signed up. When I first got in, I was love bombed. I was told I could not only heal myself, but also the pain of the world. I started taking classes immediately to become a Scientology counselor called an auditor. I was convinced to give them all of my college money, which added up to thousands of dollars. I had some great wins on these basic courses and made a new batch of friends, and that's the hook. That's what gets people in and keeps them in, looking for the rest of their lives for similar wins. I was told all my old friends were wogs, which is a Scientology word for anyone not in Scientology, and that I should leave them in the dust and move on to bigger and better people who were clearing the planet. What that really means is making money for the Church of Scientology machine, ka-ching. The registrar, which is the person you see after any course is completed, is trained in hard sales and convinced me to get expensive counseling on the way up along with my training. Then, when auditing was going well, I was told, hey, buy more because you're doing well. So I did. Then, when I bogged down trying to find drug incidents, I didn't do drugs, the registrar said, buy more because it's not going well. So I did. I volunteered for anything I could, often stuffing envelopes late into the night. I was waiting to go in one day, and a Sea Org recruiter, the Sea Org is supposedly the elite organization of the best and finest in the world that work around the clock to support Scientology around the world. So a Sea Org recruiter snagged me. He asked me, do you want to help people? Well, yes, of course, I said. The bottom line is at the end of 2 hours, he was screaming at me saying, you are out ethics and a waste of space if you don't join the Sea Org.
You're a waste of space? Oh, geez.
You're a waste of space. And he was screaming at the top of his lungs. I started crying, of course. He guaranteed that if I did join the Sea Org, that I would be able to do all of the training that I'd already paid for and do that at the same time as I was helping people. So what could be better? So I joined. I slept on floors. I ate lousy food. I basically did anything that was asked of me. so that I could make it up to Flag, which is their Mecca in Florida. I lived in a freezing room high up in a building in Hollywood with a broken window, no heating. I had one thin blanket, and of course I ended up with pneumonia. But when I had that, I was told that that was because I had someone next to me that must be antagonistic to Scientology. That's why I must have gotten sick. Well, the only person that could have been was my brother that was still living. I was also told at the time at 18 that I was too old to be an LRH messenger. That's basically the little cute handmaidens that waited on L. Ron Hubbard hand and foot. He's the leader of Scientology. So they told me that I had to go handle my brother, which meant to handle or disconnect from him so that I could still stay in the Sea Org. And he didn't like Scientology after he'd done a few courses. So what was really great is that he lived out of state. So I had to leave the state to heal my pneumonia and then to also handle him. I don't remember how I slipped out of the Sea Org, but I left shortly after that time. During my time in Scientology, I was guided to actually have abortions. They told me that it was the greatest good for the greatest number, and if I had a child, how was I going to take care of a child, be a good mom, and then also do all my courses and all that stuff. So
you were told that abortion is good?
Yes, I was told that it would keep me from doing more good for the church if I had a child.
Oh God! Oh geez! Oh.
Okay. Yeah, wild, huh? So
yeah.
when I left the Sea Organization, they considered you to be what's called a degraded being, which is a really horrible, horrible thing to call somebody. I mean, think of somebody who's on the street and completely bereft and all that, because I left staff. And they treated me like I didn't matter except to bring cash in. So I did. And I got my family to keep buying services. My family spent almost every dime, sold their home, all our college funds, etc., to go up the bridge themselves. My sister joined the Sea Org in my stead after I got out, and she went to the flagship. She married 4 times, and then she was put on the RPF, which is the Rehabilitation Project Force. That's like the Gulag. That's their prison. If you make mistakes, it could be even a small one, and she was pregnant, so I guess that was enough. She would never speak of those times to me later. She just would not talk about them. I continued to work as a waitress for years in a really super place, but the prices for Scientology went up so fast I couldn't keep up. I tried sales jobs and found I didn't like pushing people to buy things. All of us Scientologists tried multiple level companies, all different kinds of products to make fast money. Basically, you were pushed and pushed and pushed to make more money, so you could buy your bridge, of course, actually just to put money in their coffers. Well, I scraped by and gave them as much money as I could for years. I went clear, then I went OT3. Things weren't fun anymore by this time. This is near the end of the 10 years. Then the missions were destroyed, and these are all the smaller little out groups that practice Scientology in a more open manner than the big organization. The missions were destroyed, and so many people were declared a suppressive person, which is the most horrible thing you can ever call any person. That reminds me of R245. That's the policy letter that says for anyone who's suppressive, anyone in Scientology, public, staff, doesn't matter. Treat them like the devil. And you can actually do anything up into, shooting, gun, 45, that you can do anything to them to hurt them, harm them, etc.
You can shoot guns at? Seriously, they can shoot guns at people?
Well,
is that what you just said?
The title of the policy is R245.
Uh-huh.
Then it just goes on to say you can do anything. Well, why is it called R245? You see what I'm saying? It gave an open, like a carte blanche to go ahead and do whatever it took to harm these people.
Oh, jeez.
And the humor was all out of the organizations. It became deadly serious wherever you went. The regging was very heavy to get you to pay money, and everybody is forced to write some kind of a success story along the way every time you finish anything, any little tiny action. earlier in the years, I had flown to Flag to get some counseling, which is called auditing. And that was, that's supposed to be the mecca of Scientology, okay? Well, I waited for weeks. It's at very expensive prices to stay there. And then finally they told me, well, we've got somebody for you, so, you know, you can finally go in session. This is after a week and a half. And, oh, by the way, they had a pool there, but it was empty. You know, so you couldn't exactly lounge around and enjoy your time. There was no water in the pool with this heat going on in Florida. So the room that we ended up doing the counseling in was some kind of a storage room, and I had a student, not a pro, at the Mecca of auditing, who looked like a cross between Hannibal Lecter and an Auschwitz victim with a horrible case of acne. Not exactly somebody that you might feel super comfortable sharing your deepest secrets with. I was told at the time, after we did some auditing, that I needed to buy more auditing. So I called my dad, and I borrowed $5,000. Then I was told, after I got some more, I was told to go home to get up to OT3, as my little glitch that I was having must be on my OT level. That's what they do. They shove you up to the next level. They say, it's always going to be handled on the next level. You just need the next level. So I borrowed more money to get through OT3, which was $10,000. The OT levels were weird. OT means operating Satan, like spiritual being. Level 3 is called the wall of fire. It's supposed to be very dangerous. Well, it's not. It's really beyond silly. OT3, you're supposed to remove beings that are stuck to you. Then a next level after that, which includes all the upper OT levels, was more of the same. Then you're supposed to wake them up and counsel them until they leave. This is the little beings. You're supposed to sit there and counsel these little beings so they can go free. What a bunch of bunk. Then months later, one of my best friends called me and said, want to have your mind blown? Come with us and check this out. We drove to a secret location in such a way so that if Scientology spies followed us, we would lose them on the route, because at the living room in this house that we went to was stuffed with people and multiple stacks of legal files that were piled around the room. A film was started. Court documents were read. Heavyweight names in Scientology got up and told their stories, and this was the truth revealed. The church is bunk. They want your money. They harass people. There's even rumors that they threaten to kill people. I knew one guy who was in the Guardian's office. That's the original spies before OSA, Office of Special Affairs. And so I knew this guy. After he got out of the GO, we were good friends, and I went over to visit him, and he kept a loaded rifle under the bed and a loaded gun with the safety off under his pillow because he was convinced they were going to come kill him. So, and this is all to serve their own ends, whatever that is. They share your private info. This was another thing that came up in that meeting, and use it all the time to blackmail and bribe people to shut you up. That's when I walked out. I was finally freed from the bridge to total freedom, which, of course, it's not. I got my mom to see what I had seen at the same place, and so we went in secret again. I called my sister, and she was driving over from all the way across town, and she was almost at my house when she turned around and went home. She told me later on the phone that she was afraid of what she'd hear, even if it was the truth. My father left quietly at the same time after I shared all the information with him. My sister told me that she would stay connected to me if I never talked about Scientology or the truth about it to her or her kids. This broke apart our family, and it broke my mother's heart and spirit. It completely broke my mother, who was the sweetest person, and it was all for naught, the bridge to nowhere. I thought I'd been given keys to the kingdom. Not. I worry now about my niece and nephew, who are both in the Sea Org. My niece had a minimal Scientology school experience before she started working for the church of scam you for all your money. When she does get out, she will have an impossible job trying to survive in the real world. God knows how damaged she will be and how many years of therapy it will take to fix it. If she manages to make it to retirement age while she's still in the organization, she will not qualify for any Social Security, retirement benefits, no medical or dental help of any kind. She is not allowed to have children while in the Sea Org, so she will not have the joy of family life. How many people is this going to happen to?
You know,
There was this was on New Year's weekend, or not weekend, just day or whatever, but this story came out from Belgium, which I found really interesting, that criminal charges have been brought by the Belgium Federal Prosecutor's Office against the Church of Scientology. And the prosecutor's office has accused the church and two of its senior executives of the illegal practice of the art of healing, of fraud, extortion, forgery, and the use of false documents, breach of privacy, and being and they're also calling them a criminal organization, which I think is absolutely huge. And this case comes, it stems from a 2008 investigation. This lady, she answers this ad in the want ads, and she goes to apply for this administrative job, and she finds out that to get the job, she has to with the world.
Okay, thank you. It's a wonderful subject, certainly, and the world needs to know what's going on. I want to welcome everybody to the X Women Show. My name is Colleen, and I am not a Scientologist, not anymore. It's going to be a really great show, I'm sure. I was 17. I was 17 years young, open-minded.
Telling us of some really kind of bizarre things that had happened to her, and then she suggested the show, and of course I jumped on it, and so here we go. So with that, I'd like to introduce Satay. Thank you, Satay, for joining the God Discussion Show.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for having us all on your show.
Well, where do we begin? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience in Scientology and why you believe that this needs to be shared? Signed a paper saying she'll be a member of the church for 2.5 to 5 years. I'm thinking, whoa, this is kind of a weird way of recruiting church members. And so on the heels of that story, I think that our show tonight could not be more timely. And I need to thank Tay for pulling together our forum of international women who are going to be talking about the Church of Scientology. They were all members of this. Satay had called in during our Narcanon program